colleagues, friends. Good morning, shalom, salam, namaste. You're all very welcome. And I bring you warm greetings from all of us at Dublin City Interfaith Forum. As I said earlier, today is a special day for our forum and for our members, because 10 years ago, at this end of January, a group of leaders and representatives from different diverse faith communities were gathering together at the first official meeting of the newly established Dublin City Interfaith Forum. At that time, we could all feel the excitement as we were embarking on a journey of learning, discovery, and friendship. Many of the people present there are still with us today as we mark our 10th anniversary. So today we honor and give thanks to all our members, past and present, for all their selfless service and kind-hearted contribution towards making Dublin and Ireland a better place for everyone. 10 years ago in Whitkey venue, at the official launch of the forum, the then Lord Mayor of Dublin, Andrew Montague, stated, "It is with these initiatives such as Dublin City Interfaith Forum that we dialogue and work together through building relationships that promote integration, nurture harmony, and deepen understanding and respect." It's impossible for me to sum up in a few minutes a decade of building bridges, sharing common ground, and promoting integration, just as Councillor Montague mentioned. However, I'll attempt to share some insights from our own context in Ireland on how we at Dublin City Interfaith Forum, through interfaith action, advance human rights, promote interfaith respect and understanding of our cultural and religious diversity. Because right from the beginning, our forum was committed to create relationships of deeper respect and acceptance of each other as human beings. Because if we can harness the extraordinary resources that the faith traditions offer, problems such as racial and religious prejudice can be alleviated or even overcome. So this deep sharing is important for all people, but it is especially important for people whose spiritual nurture comes from other parts of the world. Their faith dominates their life. For many, it is what makes their life. As we know, religion and culture can be separated. We work together to prevent religious and ethnic communities, and including the more vulnerable communities, from being marginalized or ghettoized. We stand together in challenging racist behavior through our various actions and initiatives. It's not difficult how things have changed in the world, sadly not for the better. And we all heard last night from most of the speakers at the Holocaust Memorial Day commemoration, how the rising number of right-wing supremacist and neo-Nazis movement is gaining traction around the world, and social media is providing an easy conduit for fomenting racism and hate speech. These platforms for extremist rhetoric becomes righteousness, and the more this language is tolerated, the more it seeps into the national discourse, the more it becomes acceptable and mainstream. It must be called out for what it is whenever and wherever is manifested, as all manifestations of racism. So how do we draw inspiration from our interfaith actions to address these challenges? That's because we're concerned with people, with how they live, what they believe, and how their lives are shaped by what they believe. We don't pretend there are no differences. There are, and they matter, because the people who believe these different things matter. Our work is extraordinarily multi-layered and multidimensional. Last week, we were in consultations with the Angarda Shigana Diversity Forum. Today, we're talking to you Tomorrow we're celebrating New Year of the Trees and St. Bridget's with Brackensdown Parish. Thursday will be in All Hallows. So this is to name just a few. Today, every major city is now the home of many faiths. There's hardly a city in the world which is peopled by devotees of only one faith. We must continue to work to build bridges across ancient rifts, to build bridges out of the walls that keep us apart, and work in partnership with others towards establishing dialogue, promote interfaith respect and understanding of our religious diversities. Conversations are both enlightening and challenging. As the face of Dublin and our country changes, so does the range of faith communities and the importance of developing a cohesive society that understands, acknowledges, and respects its diverse parts. I'll close here because we're pressed by time with one of the principles listed in our charter. You see it behind me there. That says that to promote dialogue, we work to promote dialogue between the different communities of belief coexisting in our city. We believe this to be fundamental to guaranteeing the necessary conditions for living together in peace, justice, and solidarity. Thank you, and I'll hand you over now to our MC and our new chair, Archbishop Michael Jackson.
Thank you all very much indeed for being here. We have an intense morning, and I hope that the range of voices and perspectives that we hear will give us a sense of the development of the Dublin City Interfaith Forum over its life of 10 years. We would never have been anywhere were it not for the successive and active support of the Lord Mayor of any given year. So I would like first and foremost to offer the floor, or perhaps the screen, to Lord Mayor Alison Gilliland, who would like to address us now.
Thank you very much. It's my very great pleasure to be with you here this morning and to celebrate your 10th anniversary. Last night in the round room here in the Mansion House, I, like many of you, had the privilege of attending the Holocaust Memorial Day commemoration, recalling the terrible acts of genocide inflicted on those of a Jewish faith, those with disabilities, those from the LGBT community, and those with non-Nazi political beliefs during World War II. We also very much remembered our collective responsibilities to understand and uphold the rights of others to dignity, to be valued for their own sake, to be accepted and respected, and to be treated fairly. Our collective responsibility to reject hate speech and intolerance. However, it's worth acknowledging that for many, particularly those new to a community or a country, that without support, it can be less fearful to go along with the status quo and not speak up or put your head above that parapet where you see or experience intolerance. Personally, in my own background, I grew up in a Protestant family on this side of the border during the Troubles, a minority community that was stereotyped according to the general political allegiances of the conflict in the north. I went to a Protestant primary and secondary school, and my neighbours went to a Catholic primary and secondary school. There were very few opportunities to mix. It was an environment of them and us. As a child, them and us was not a rhetoric I could understand, as supposedly we all shared the same Christian God. From a faith perspective, to me, it was a rhetoric that was hypocritical. There seemed to be no one from either side that was willing to broker an understanding between the two communities, to bring them together on common ground. And there was much common ground in a small rural community. Looking back, I can see how an interfaith forum in my local community would have helped build bridges, would have helped neighbours see the common ground they shared, and would have found opportunities for the two communities to mix, or what today we term integrate. Aside from border-related challenges, Ireland has a relatively short history of religious and cultural diversity. We were a country of mostly outward migration during the 80s and 90s, And this movement of people only really reversed during the Celtic Tiger years, when our economy began to attract workers from across the globe. Our communities became more diverse and varied, more beautiful and colourful in every sense of the word. However, there were and continue to be challenges for new arrivals and migrants to Ireland to integrate, to be encouraged or to find opportunities and make friends beyond their immediate cultural or home country community. There are also challenges from local communities, where too often, as happened in my own childhood, different nationalities, faiths or cultures are stereotyped according to the dominant global political and cultural perception associated with their country, their faith or their culture. And they can be targeted because of that. The backlash against those of a Muslim faith after 9/11 is one such example that we are all too familiar with. Lack of understanding of faith and culture gives rise to fear, and fear can make us insular and defensive, often manifesting itself in acts of intolerance, acts of race-based harassment, bullying, damage to property and violence, acts of discrimination, and acts of exclusion. As we know only too well, these biased acts damage communities, damage social and civic cohesion, and damage our prosperity. The Dublin City Interfaith Forum, in partnership with Dublin City Council, can play a key role, I believe, in preventing this social damage. We both share a strong vision of a fully integrated city that promotes respect for, acceptance of, and inclusion of diversity of faith, belief, nationality, and culture of all those who choose to live, work, and recreate in our city. Like us in Dublin City Council, you who make up the Dublin City Interfaith Forum seek to promote and support the integration of migrants in the civic, community, and public life of our city. Like us, you have an important role in promoting inclusion and social cohesion. Your unique, trusted position of guidance and reassurance among those for whom faith and spirituality play a key role in their lives enables you to reach out to families and individuals, engage with them, build up local knowledge, personal contacts and networks among and between communities. In the same way we work collaboratively with a broad variety of stakeholders across the city, it therefore makes sense that the Dublin City Interfaith Forum and Dublin City Council have a strong collaborative working relationship where we can be of mutual support in our joint promotion of integration, in breaking down the barriers of fear, misconceptions, and lack of understanding. It also makes sense that this collaborative working relationship extends to all stakeholders in the city, many of whom are represented and attending here today. I believe that working together, we can all reach out the hand of friendship to communities and across communities, to break down stereotypes, to deepen understanding, to build bridges, to share common ground, and to promote integration and social harmony. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, thank you very much indeed. We're inspired by what you say, and our numbers have now grown from what seems to be 36. So that is marvelous. I know that you're more than busy, but we'd be delighted if you can remain for as much as is possible, but we understand perfectly if you need to move and go to other work. The next part of our morning is that of panel presentations. 4 people are due to present to us. One is Paula Hilmann, who's the Assistant Commissioner of An Garda Síochána. Then Sinead Gibney, who's the Chief Commissioner of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission. Then Philip McDonagh, who's the Director of the Centre for Religion, Human Rights and International Relations in DCU. And Mary Lynch, Head of Integration in Dublin City Council. And I imagine what you probably want to do is to speak in that order. And then there will be an opportunity for question and answers coming from the rest of us. So Paula, we're very pleased to have you here and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And just before I start, can I ask, can you hear me okay? I've just actually put headphones in because I have the loudest roadworks outside here in Harcourt Square. They're very loud, so you might have seen me. So you can hear me okay, yes? And no roadworks. Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, Archbishop Jackson, Lord Mayor Gilliland, Dublin City Interfaith Forum members and all other invited guests and panel members, I do thank you so much for the invitation to talk to you today and be part of the 10th anniversary celebration. And there is much to celebrate and many achievements that I know, and I've also been told about that you have been involved in, Adrian, and your colleagues since your inception. And I was reflecting myself on the theme of building bridges, sharing common ground and promoting integration. So for my short section, I will look at that from a policing perspective and really look at what is that common ground and that promoting integration and the bridges then that we build. Policing covers a vast range of issues within our society, and often a lot of what we deal with, and even more so today, is non-crime related. In fact, the vast majority of policing demand and what we deal with in Garda Síochána is dealing with vulnerability. Many faith groups, just like yourselves in Dublin City Interfaith Forum, have a high motivation to help within our society, and sometimes don't know how to help or what else, or how can they best focus your resources. So by talking together, we can find out what the problems are and how faith groups such as yourselves can assist. And I know you have been doing that over the last 10 years within Dublin City. Certainly my own experience of working with faith groups, not just now in Dublin, but also in Belfast, and with working with faith group and churches, is once we start those conversations, we unlock massive social capital that we can really help and work together to transform an area, to make a real difference to people's lives, or to a community problem. And this is even more valuable at times of difficult or really critical times where we can come together to help people. Faith communities like yourselves support us in Garda Síochána in numerous ways. Before I start talking about the policing aspect, I think I would also like to thank you for your personal support to us, because I know that many of you include us in your prayers and thoughts, and that is very welcomed as we continue to police Ireland. But equally, your support in engaging and supporting some of the most vulnerable members within our communities in both the preventative and proactive initiatives that you're all involved in, it's very welcomed. It is clear that we're dealing with some of the most difficult social problems, such as homelessness, isolation, addiction, integration, and integrating minority communities within our society, that not one single organisation will be successful, and we must do that together. Faith and policing working together galvanises people who can make a real difference in local communities, and just as you do in Dublin City Interfaith Forum, working with us at local level, we have really strong connections with our local operational Gardaí, our Garda diversity officers, and your attendance at local events. Equally, the assistance, your advice and the support that you provide to us and to me and to my team in the National Garda Diversity Unit personally is very welcomed. No one organisation has all the answers, and by working together, sharing lived experiences, we can work to make our community safer. At a national level, you're very well represented on the Garda National Diversity Forum by your Executive Officer, Adrian, who is a very much valued member of that team. The forum has a number of functions. It helps us and supports us in the implementation of our diversity and integration strategy. And that ensures that we play our role in tackling racism and by encouraging the reporting of and thoroughly investigating hate crimes and incidents, supporting the victims of those crimes and signposting them to support groups that can all help them, whether they're a victim of a crime, or also promote inclusion within our societies. The forum, which you are also which you're representative of, also provides a role as a critical friend and has a real impact into our policing practices and our policies as we shape them. And we are currently working closely with the forum, including Adrian, in seeking input and feedback as we develop our 2022 Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Strategy. So that's some of the common ground that we have. In terms of integration, working with yourselves, we recognise that a proactive approach to equality, diversity and inclusion gives a clearer expression of our core values and commitments to respect and equality of human rights and in our own and Garda Síochána Code of Ethics. Fostering and increasing diversity and inclusion is not only the right thing to do, but improves our service delivery as a police service by benefiting from the talents and life experiences of people from all backgrounds. And we also recognise that policing confidence and legitimacy is enhanced by a policing service that is representative of the communities it serves. We're preparing for a new recruitment campaign, and we encourage everyone from every community to join us. Our campaign will be for full-time members, but also as perhaps potentially later in the year or in time to come to join us as a Garda Reserve or Garda staff member. We have made recent changes to our uniform policy to promote that inclusion, which will include the wearing of turbans, pur hats, skull caps, hijabs, and beards, and shows our commitment to be a more inclusive, diverse and police service representative of all our communities. And I suppose today, as I am with you celebrating what you have achieved in the last 10 years, one of the things I would ask is your help and encourage the communities that you represent to come and work to join us in Garda Síochána, and those people can work with you in the next 10 and many years to come, keeping our community safe. So to conclude, many thanks and congratulations on the work that Dublin City Interfaith Forum have delivered in the previous 10 years. We look forward to the next 10 years to that continued success, but in further enhancing our great working relationship, helping us to achieve our mission of keeping people safe and your mission of building understanding, respect and cooperation between all religions and faith groups. None of us individually or our organisations are islands. Building those bridges across islands, in our real terms, building bridges within organisations, within communities and across organisations and across communities creates that common ground that helps make a real difference within our communities. Dublin City Interfaith Forum, I thank you for the work you've undertaken in the last 10 years. We look forward, myself and other members of Garda Síochána, to the next 10 and many more. We are committed to working with you. And just like the Golden Gate Bridge, which is continually being painted, we need to keep challenging ourselves, updating our bridges, and even sometimes move those bridges in a new direction. Doing that together, we will continue to build the common ground and promote the integration that builds safe, respectful societies. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. That's very enriching and enlightening, and thank you for sharing all of those perspectives with us. Now I'm looking at my timetable. I have 3 more speakers and there are 14 minutes, so I would encourage each of you please to talk for 4 minutes, and then that'll give the opportunity to the people who've now risen to 40 who are participants, maybe to get some response and opportunity to engage with what we have heard. So I'll move immediately to Sinead Gibney, welcome you and invite you to speak, please.
Thank you very much, Archbishop, and I think my comments will be under 4 minutes, so leaving plenty of time hopefully for questions today. Good morning to you all, and I'm really delighted to be here to celebrate with you all today in wishing you a very happy 10th birthday. As Chief Commissioner, I'm proud that the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission has a long-standing track record of proactive collaboration and exchange with the Dublin City Interfaith Forum. My predecessor, Emily Logan, stood with you when you launched your Interfaith Charter in the Mansion House in 2016, and I'm proud to stand with you or sit with you today as you celebrate your 10th anniversary. We have supported your work through our Human Rights and Equality Grants Scheme in establishing your Safe Haven programme, focusing on effective reporting, recording, responding and referral of hate crimes and hate-motivated incidents through community-based victim supports. And you have supported our work, as Adrian from the Forum was recently part of our consultative group who helped us develop and deliver our All Human, All Equal public awareness campaign, which focused on bringing forward a diversity of voices and perspectives in the shared goal of challenging racism. The importance for us of engaging with the Dublin City Interfaith Forum in the space around human rights, equality and faith is really significant. The Interfaith Charter speaks of the need to commit ourselves to the values of peace, justice, solidarity, and defense of the dignity of each human being as a valued member of our shared society. This focus on individual dignity is a bedrock of the human rights framework stemming from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, but also the bedrock of your work as faith communities. As we seek to recover and rebuild from the terrible years we have just experienced, we must, as the Interfaith Charter says, not just return to business as usual, but take this moment of renewal to create the social conditions that will allow all to share peace, joy, and hope. In 2 weeks, our Commission will be publishing our own strategic priorities for the next 3 years. And if I can give you a tiny sneak preview, within this strategy, we speak to the need to acknowledge the intersectionality between diverse identities and to challenge the prevalence and impact of racism. The Dublin City Interfaith Forum has been and continues to be, despite challenges of funding and resources, a beacon in leading this kind of collaborative approach. I thank you again for all your work since 2012 in building bridges, sharing common ground, and promoting integration. We look forward to working with you over the next 10 years and beyond. And I'm really looking forward to a fruitful discussion this morning. I'll be able to stay for the duration. Thank you all.
Thank you so much indeed. That's again very empowering and inspiring, and I think that level of synergy you talk about is very important to us as well as to you, so thank you. I move on then, if I may, to Philip McDonagh and give him the opportunity to address us.
Thank you very much, Archbishop Michael and friends. I've been very privileged over the last year or so to become more and more familiar with the work of the Dublin City Interfaith Forum through Adrian. Adrian has been closely involved in the work of our centre at DCU, which is involved in teaching and engaged research. I come from the background in the Department of Foreign Affairs, but one of the things one learns is that there is a connection between social justice at home and peace in the world. That's the basis of the Sustainable Development Goals. I'd like to say a little now about the whole concept of mutual literacy, which is one of the areas in which our centre is trying to make a difference. I'm getting a little interference on the sound, but I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I wonder, I don't want to contradict you at all. I wonder if those who aren't speaking might again be reminded to switch off the microphone, please.
Thanks very much. When the Taoiseach launched our centre in April, he made two, I think, quite significant statements. One was concerning the need to interpret and apply our high-level values in a world that's changing rapidly. And the other statement was that there's important work to be done on the concepts and organizational principles that can encourage a mutually beneficial engagement by political leaders and other stakeholders with religious actors. So those two statements really define the territory in which our centre is working. And you could describe this work as the attempt to find a new language for politics, or you could describe it as the attempt to find mutual literacy between public authorities and religious actors. And I'd just like briefly to suggest 4 ways in which those of us who have a religious understanding of reality can contribute to the public debate and to literacy in that sense, and 4 ways in which we need to have literacy about the concerns of public authorities. So I think the first question concerns how a path for evil and breakdown opens up in society. We see it in individual countries, we see it at the international level. And I think the wisdom of the world's religious traditions is that something has to be opposed to that tendency towards breakdown. The word peace, of course, is used, but there has to be some content in what we understand by peace, in what our vision of reality might be. I've been trying for quite some time to understand the Indian concept of dharma, which refers to an order in nature and an order in relationships and a disposition in the person. In the Western political tradition, the key word, I think, is koinonia, Aristotle, which is translated in Latin as communio, and it means creating a society in which everyone has a stake. It's a little bit like what Sinead was just saying about creating the social conditions in which rights can be enjoyed. And I'm sure there are similar concepts in other civilizations. So that's the first area of literacy, I think, that I wanted to mention. The second is the question of how change happens. It doesn't happen all at once. We have to proceed on a journey of hope. I think a third area of focus could be reconciliation, because we have to be able to leave some aspects of the past behind us, and we have to repair relationships. And that is something where religious actors can make a huge difference. And finally, I think there's the question of truth. Freedom comes with responsibility. Young people want to build something in the light of reality. Now, on the other side of the coin, I think we, speaking from a religious perspective, have to be mindful of the abuses of the past. The European project came from an awareness of the Holocaust and other such horrors. Secondly, I think we have to respect science, as people say. There are areas of knowledge which are valid in themselves and need to be factored in. Thirdly, we shouldn't, as Archbishop McDowell of Armagh said at the opening of our centre, we shouldn't seek the last word in politics. We should seek to make a contribution. And finally, I think we should understand the very difficult job that political leaders have. There are all kinds of forces in play: finance, technology, cross-border forces which are not accountable within an individual democracy. And we have to try to create a climate in which political leaders are empowered to do more. So that's been a rush through the concept of mutual literacy. But I will just say that we're trying to do stuff in practice as well. We're in charge of a session at the Fundamental Rights Forum of the EU, and we have research projects under the aegis of the Irish Interchurch Meeting, the Irish Council of Churches, and the Dublin City Interfaith Forum. So thank you very much, and I'm very honoured to have been included on this panel.
Thank you very much indeed for that. Yet again, it gives us a further perspective on what we might take forward and partnership that you have offered us in the work that you do and what we seek to do. We have one more speaker in the panel presentation before we move to our question and answer time, and that is Mary Lynch, Head of Integration in Dublin City Council. Mary.
Thank you very much. Hello everybody, and thank you to Dublin City Interfaith Forum for inviting me today. It's a great pleasure and an honour to be here to celebrate your 10th anniversary, and congratulations to everybody. As Integration Officer for Dublin City Council, I've worked with DCIF over the last year, primarily on the new integration and intercultural strategy for the City of Dublin, and in the delivery of important intercultural events and programmes. Connecting with them has been an invaluable resource for me and a vital conduit to the wider, diverse and intercultural community. The importance of faith-based communities to integration cannot be underestimated. They are at the very heart of the city and the development of community, providing support, guidance, mentoring, counselling, capacity building and other resources for people and their families. They occupy the spaces where those that might be excluded or hard to reach are connected. They welcome and encourage those people to take their place in their communities. They are at the forefront of community activity and the catalyst for many social events and community engagements. They're always open, ready to assist, and have risen to many challenges in the city, including some very difficult ones that the pandemic presented for people. The essence of grassroots community development. People don't integrate into cities, they integrate into communities, and community development is key to that process. And this is why the work of DCIF is so important to the city in supporting those communities and their leaders. They are the key connectors for all faiths, promoting diversity and empowering migrant communities to fully participate in city life in all capacities, positively promoting the very real and important contributions faith-based diverse communities make to life in the city. They strive to make a city that is welcome to everyone, regardless of religion or belief, and create the space for social cohesion as a result. They're the networkers and connectors for faith communities, important advocates of the valuable contributions those communities make to the welfare of society. They're at the forefront of engagement with public services and government agencies, lending their resources and sharing their great knowledge and expertise in policymaking and strategy development. They capture and nurture the work of faith-based communities, highlighting the real asset they are to the city, encouraging participation in all aspects of city life and in its decision-making process. Cultivating the desire of those communities to be part of the fabric of the city and encouraging them to assist with the development of safer, healthier and more vibrant areas of Dublin. Through DCIF, the spaces to accommodate this interaction is maintained. DCIF strive to ensure these actions are realised and that the respect and acceptance for diversity is maintained and challenged in those that can't or don't want to understand this very basic human right. Community is often a child's first teacher or moral compass after a parent or a guardian or school. Faith-based communities and their leaders are usually at the forefront in this regard and provide valuable mentoring and encourage self-esteem. Equality and diversity is championed often. They can be an important stabilising influence in areas with difficulties and issues, and sometimes they are the only accepted mediators. In my varied experience of working in community development in many areas of the city, I regularly saw this work on the ground in both dealing with extraordinary events to daily support of the community and families and the children on the ground. I am a child of a faith-based community and I grew up as a teenager in the heroin epidemic that was Dublin in the 80s. And at the heart of our community was a faith-based church, a church. And that church did community development before anybody ever even heard of community development, and families and children were supported into other avenues. Many of my contemporaries went a different way than I did. And it was down to the development of our local church and the services they provided, the youth clubs they provided, and the very, very basic supports to families at that time. The need for organisations like DCF is crucial if we're to include our new communities and create a space for respect, dignity and equality. Dublin has changed rapidly over the last 10 years. And this is also why DCC will collaborate with DCIF, not only on the new integration and intercultural strategy, but on a migrant and intercultural forum for Dublin City, and on the work of a series of migrant governance indicators with the IOM and the United Nations. DCC are grateful for the connection, as am I, to DCIF and for the support and contribution to work on these important projects going forward, and look forward to another 10 years. Thanks so much.
Mary, also thank you very, very much indeed. We've had a wonderful perspective from those who have observed us, those who have worked with us, and you've also given us many components of a way forward in the 10 years to come. So there has been no mistake, I think, in gathering us all together today, because it's given that opportunity to share what you perceive of us and what we have sought to do with you. The Charter, I think, has come through quite strongly as something that galvanizes the thought pattern of the Interfaith Forum. But really my hope now is that perhaps through the assistance of Michael, who kind of can help with the chat, there will be members of our total gathering, now up to 40, who are not members of the Dublin City Interfaith Forum and are not panel presenters who will have a voice. So it's really over to those who want to make statements briefly, ask questions briefly, or comment briefly. And then after a short break, we'll move into some tributes from, I suppose, across other cities where there are fora. The floor, as I say, is now open to those who wish to raise some issues, and members of the panel, I imagine, would be willing to take these issues. So, would somebody like to break the ice?
If I could be so bold, Archbishop.
Please do.
Firstly, can I say happy 10th anniversary to everybody. I suppose I'm wearing a couple of caps today, but you know, if I'm actually speaking in relation to the independent sort of hate and extremism program, Safe Haven. First and foremost, I just want to say it really is very, very heartening. I suppose as a Garda member who's actually also a practicing Buddhist, you know, I've seen the organisation change and develop. It's certainly not the same organisation that I had joined quite some time ago. But I've also felt very, very fortunate that the pathway that I had taken led towards actually originally working in the diversity office, and then on to actually sort of having representation with the Dublin City Interfaith Forum. And as a consequence of those discussions, even though I had actually moved on from the diversity office, in a personal capacity, it gave the opportunity to explore Safe Haven. And it couldn't be possible if it wasn't for each and every one of you in lending your support, engaging in the training, engaging in all those elements. And that also includes, I suppose, the fact that, you know, having the support of colleagues, having the support of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, and also having the support of each and every one of the participants. It has made it much sort of more possible to look towards empowering faith communities and re-establishing the importance of compassion in practice. This reinvigoration is actually really important, and I have to say, if it wasn't for Dublin City Interfaith Forum and its members and those who are actually really keen towards seeing that element of actual sort of support and interfaith dialogue and interfaith support actually having a very real expression, I'd be at an absolute loss to actually see Safe Havens. I suppose Safe Haven wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for yourselves. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you very, very much. I really do wish that the DCIF moves well beyond the next 10 years, and I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much indeed. I might take some comments in this form or any questions, and then invite the panelists maybe to respond one by one, if that were okay. So the floor again is open. Anybody who'd like to speak, if you can put up your hand function, it'd be a help to me.
Just to say, we have a message from Ahmed from the Clonskee Mosque just to congratulate us, and you'll have to go soon. But just to say thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. If I could say something myself, taking advantage of the fact that I'm one of the thing is, I think a hugely important part of the forum has been not just the participation of the wide number of faith groups, but also the engagement of the City Council, of the Gardaí and other agencies. I think that's really been important for us. We've been very well supported through the Lord Mayor's office throughout our period, but also from people like Mary working in the council. And that's been hugely important to be able to have our voice heard and to actually get engaged with, get the voice of the faith communities into that forum, and as with the Guards and with the colleges and other agencies, the Human Rights Forum, and that. I think that's been hugely important. As I should also say, it's been very helpful for us to have an international set of links, and to some of the people that are here from that, we'll hear for them. But that's very important in terms of learning from others and getting different perspectives, and getting a sense that this is a coming movement. This is a really important thing for people to be engaged in.
Thank you. Are there others who'd like to speak?
Hello?
Donald?
Yes, Donald. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for this. I'd just like to know, are there opportunities, what kind of opportunities do faith groups offer their members to engage in interfaith activities, like volunteering, specific volunteering opportunities that the faiths can present to their members to get engaged in interfaith opportunities. Now, apart from Safe Haven, which is an excellent program, but I'm just wondering for expansion or further engagement from people on the ground, if you like. People.
Thank you. We'll hold that. And then I think Ahmed, you would like to speak?
Yeah. Thank you. Just before I leave, I actually wanted to congratulate the DCIF and the good people working on it and in it on the 10th anniversary. And thank you for inviting, of course. And wanted to wish you also all success and prosperity for many, many years to come. I have a question for Adrian or anybody else in the DCIF. I can't imagine it's been 10 years since it was established, and we all admit that how fast all those 10 years have gone. And I do appreciate that the network has grown, the connections have also grown for the DCIF. I was wondering, what is the plan to make the DCIF a more effective organization for the future? That doesn't mean that, as I said, I know it has grown rapidly and it is playing more and more effective role, but is there any plan for the future to make it even more effective?
Thank you for your good wishes and thank you for your question. I have a note of some of these questions and we'll take them quite soon. Would anybody else like to raise a point or ask a question?
Archbishop Teresa Blake here, board member, if I could.
Yes, indeed.
If you can hear me, thank you very much and good morning, everybody. It has been very interesting listening to everybody. Just in response and looking to the next 10 years. And at this point in time, I'm very excited about that prospect, having heard all of the speakers this morning. Just to say, I think in terms of active on the ground, as Ahmed said, obviously as a registered charity and issues and looking after all of the governance, DCIF requires funding. Michael has mentioned the excellent funding that has sustained it through very lean periods from various organisations and rightly called out Dublin City Council and other missionary movements and that. But of course, that's a key thing for any organisation, and we'll just put that out there. But funding is going to be a vital thing, good governance and governance in compliance with the statutory and regulatory regime, all of which are vital to the integrity of the organisation. Also picking up on the speaker before, and I apologise, I didn't get the name, in terms of what can people do and what can faith groups do on the ground. Adrian mentioned the work being done with Brackenstown Parish. That's one example. And I can also refer to an example in my own parish community. The Our Lady Mother of the Church parish here in Castleknock, where I live, and we had a Walk of Witness program which involved many people of different faiths in support of refugees and asylum seekers in the Dublin 15 area. That was very successful, started from our parish down to the cross in the Phoenix Park and back up, and people of many faiths and of none came and done that. So that's the kind of solidarity and representation that people from faith groups, that's just one example, and I'm sure there are many, many more we can all do together when we learn the literacy and the language and not be fearful, and to see what a wonderful contribution we can make. I thank Mary and others for all their contributions this morning. Thank you, Archbishop.
Teresa, thank you.
Thank you.
Was there another hand that was up and went down, or was that something we've dealt with? Maybe that was done. I think we could probably take one more question and then it's back to the panel.
Hi, Michael. Can I go ahead? I did raise the hand. This is regarding, we were talking of literacy. I am been with DCIF since the foundation, and we were there working. We have progressed a lot. with the Dublin City Corporation, Council, and they have helped us with the funding, but the funding is required, manpower is required, and there's a lot of load on Adrian himself, a lot of load is there. So I think what Dublin City Council can help us by giving a secretariat somewhere around so that we know where we have to go and we can be there and we can do more work while going on and off. Different faiths can go there and we can have a teaching of the faith there also. That way, if we get a secretariat, we will have a nodal point there to meet, rather than meeting in different places. And if council can help us in that one, because to run any organization successfully, you need a fulcrum and you need a place there, nodal point. And also we need the funds, the manpower. 3 M's are required: the good management, the manpower, and the money. And if we don't have one of them is missing, we won't be to our full efficacy. So I think we require all the things, plus of course, the manpower is coming from different faith groups also voluntarily, and the education of the masses, the religious teaching should be included in the primary school and the secondary school. And the universities also can come forward with the teaching of different interfaith teaching, where there could be prospectus and the bursaries could be issued in different universities, and the universities themselves can raise the funds, asking the different communities to help them out with the little funds to provide the bursary, plus their own funds. I think that's the only way we can take the literacy, as Professor McDonagh has said it earlier. Literacy is very important of the masses. DCIF is one part of it, but it has to be done from the government side also. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have to draw a line under these questions and responses, simply in order to keep with our timetable and also to give members of the panel any opportunity to respond. So there are, of course, 4 of you, and you're still here. Would any of you like to say anything brief in response to the areas that have been raised?
I'd be happy to, Archbishop, if that's okay.
Please. Oh, yes, please.
Thank you so much. Firstly, just in response to not only the comments we've just heard from members, but also from the other panelists, it's so clear of the deep appreciation that we as stakeholders hold in the Dublin City Interfaith Forum, and the value that you bring is shining through in today's comments. In responding to, I suppose, I too am really excited and keen to hear about the next 10 years, about the plans for the forum, about your vision for your future work. And it's also very clear that there are challenges, particularly around funding and the survival and thriving of groups such as yourselves. I worked directly, previous to being Chief Commissioner, in some of my consultancy work with faith-based groups and supporting them in strategic planning and other elements of their work. And I'm aware of the difficulty in primarily volunteer-led groups and how hard it is to drive and sustain the work. And I think it's really important to remember that so much of the value that you bring is through the mobilization and the reach that you have as faith-based groups. I realize that it can be difficult to sustain that and keep things moving, but I think it's really important to keep that in mind, and that in so many ways it is the journey rather than the destination. It's not about necessarily always the outputs and the the bigger perhaps objectives, but how you're getting there and how you're operating and working as a community and as a group in doing so. And I also think that there are changes in the funding landscape as well. There has been a difficult few years for NGOs and many community groups since the Atlantic Fund closed, but there are opportunities arising, as well as some of the other ones represented here today in both ourselves and I know through Dublin City Council as well. So just to say that there are ways for groups such as the Intercity or Interfaith Forum rather to survive and thrive, and it's just very clear to me that the value that you bring is going to sustain, and it's going to continue into the future. So once again, just huge thanks, and I'm really looking forward to the next 10 years of collaboration on behalf of IREC and on behalf of the Dublin community. Thank you.
And thank you. Mary, I think you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back on the funding issue, and I think it's something Adrian and I have had several conversations about, and I'm trying to fulfill on funding as much as I can, and we would have grant aided now for the new year, and hopefully grant aid again going forward. But for me, organisations such as yourself will always be on the table where funding is concerned in relation to my role within the City Council, because as I said, and as I mentioned earlier on, the importance of groups like yourselves in connecting us to the wider city are paramount to what we do. I think a conversation can happen again about space for yourselves and the support. Adrian will tell you, we've had many conversations, and my door is open as a conduit to Dublin City Council. That conduit for me to the wider community is not just for me, it's also for DCIF, and to link into what we have. There's a piece of work around funding, other funding that may come on board that we can fit the organisation with, and that's something I've committed to as well. But it's something that a lot of groups are struggling with at the moment post COVID, where funds have been going to different places, to emergencies and things like that. But just to be aware that we are looking at it, and we are working at it, and we're doing something positive about it.
Thank you very much indeed. Unless either of our other panelists wants specifically to say anything, I might give us a break of 5 minutes. We're keeping well with our time, and then there are some tributes. So perhaps we can take 5 minutes and come back for 12:05, and then we can still conclude our work for 12:30. I wonder, are we ready to begin again?
Yep.
We've had the opportunity not only to hear from Adrian, giving us, I suppose, the background and the genesis of the Dublin City Interfaith Forum and the connection from Lord Mayor to Lord Mayor. Then we've had various other perspectives from, I suppose, partners who are also independent of us in relation to civic life across Ireland and also in Dublin. But at the same time, we've had an opportunity to, I suppose, broaden our horizon as members of the Dublin City Interfaith Forum in relation to what they've said. But throughout this, I think there has been a very positive understanding of our cooperation and collaboration. And I'd like to thank all of those who had the vision and the courage 10 years ago to embark on this work. 10 years does make a difference. And the great thing is that that difference has kept pace with the changes in our society. So the opportunity we've had to talk about partnership is something that we greatly treasure and cherish in Dublin City Interfaith Forum. And it just wouldn't have been possible without all of you. So thank you very much indeed for making that happen. Some people who are engaged with us from further organizations want to offer short tributes. And so if they're all on this Zoom call, I'll call first of all on Jenny, who is the head of education at the Chester Beatty Library, if she's here.
Hi, Dr. Jackson, Michael Jackson.
Yes, how are you?
How are you?
Well, indeed, and how are you?
Lovely, good to see you again.
And you too.
Yeah, and I see some familiar faces and it's lovely to see you all again. And thank you so much for inviting me. For those of you who don't know about the Chester Beatty, it's an art library and a museum based in the grounds of Dublin Castle. And we're there now 22 years this month. And it holds the collection of Sir Alfred Chester Beatty with Islamic, East Asian and European collections. And I suppose my job is to create access as much as possible to the collections for our audiences, including schools. And around 2015, we launched our Interfaith learning resource, exploring different faiths through the collections, are called Ways of Seeing 2. And we did this in collaboration with the Intercultural Education Services of Northern Ireland and the Ulster Museum. So it was a cross-border project. But I suppose after that, we realized teachers in the Republic also need to understand the faiths that are present both in our collections, but also in Ireland today, in contemporary Ireland. And it's through working with Dublin City Interfaith Forum, as well as Mary Immaculate, which is the largest initial teacher training college in the Republic, that has really helped foster the way in creating that contemporary understanding of the faiths, both represented in our collections, but also in Ireland today. And it's giving voice to our faith-based communities and fostering dialogue with teachers, because our teachers have children of multi-faith in the classroom today. I could mention the Anna Lind Foundation, but I'm going to leave that to my colleague Anne Luttrell, because I actually met the Dublin City Interfaith Forum through the Anna Lind Foundation, which is the network. And I'm going to stop talking because Michael has a short, snappy video just to highlight our last Interfaith Teacher Training Day held in November last year. Thank you, and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for your words and also that video. I wonder if we could move then to Norman Richardson, who also would like to bring greetings. Norman, if you're still with us.
Thank you very much indeed, Bishop, and thank you to everyone for inviting the Northern Ireland Interfaith Forum to be represented on this occasion. We are, I guess, close neighbours in that we're an interfaith forum just 100 miles up the road. And I know that there have been, over your 10 years or so, there have been a number of opportunities for us to interact, perhaps not as many as we would wish in view of the relative closeness of the two forums. And I hope very much in your coming 10 years that there will be new opportunities to have interaction and to share. We're coming up in the Northern Ireland Interfaith Forum next year to our 30th anniversary. A lot has changed in Northern Ireland since we were established in 1993, but many of the issues that you've been speaking about in relation to the Dublin Forum are very similar to ours, except perhaps for the history, obviously, of the Troubles and its impact on Northern Ireland, during which faith minorities, although they were certainly present, often felt hidden or missed somehow in everything that was going on. And one of our tasks in the Northern Ireland Interfaith Forum has been to try to make those minority faiths and communities citizens, and to work on the issues, the important issues of awareness and understanding and dealing with stereotypes and ignorance, and also dealing with hate crime, which is too rife still in our society. So it's a pleasure to hear your own concerns and to share something with you. I bring the warm greetings of all the members of our Interfaith Forum, especially the Interfaith Forum Committee, and we do look forward very much to sharing with you once again and regularly over the coming years. Thank you very much, and very best wishes on your 10th anniversary.
Thank you so much. That's very heartening for us to hear the renewed hope of cooperation in a journey that's only 2 hours away. So thank you very much indeed, Norman. If we may move on to Leonie Lewis, the Director of the City's Faith and Community Forum. We're very pleased if you can address us briefly.
Thank you very much, Archbishop, and I'm really privileged and delighted to be able to say a few words to a wonderful colleague, Adrian, on the occasion of your 10th anniversary from the Cities of Faith and Community Forum. Adrian has been a founding member and is a founding member of this small but incredibly impactful group that seeks to understand the significance of our faith sector and the important role it plays in local and municipal governments. The Cities of Faith Forum has a mission to provide a platform across leading cities in the UK and Europe, facilitating and developing, learning and sharing best practice in positive engagement between faith groups, city governments and institutions in order to build more inclusive and integrated cities. We look specifically to work with local city governing bodies and local authorities in order to most effectively meet the needs of city residents. And it was just so wonderful to be able to hear so many of the council not just praise the work of Dublin City Interfaith, but also actively engage with the work you do. And that's what I think that's what we're all about. Adrian, as I said, has been a founding member of this particular group, and he really lives by the values of the 3 values you have, which are about building bridges, sharing common ground, and prioritizing integration. And these are things that he stands for, and I know that the forum stands for too, and that's why it's an honor to be able to call him my colleague. I would say that Cities of Faith Community Forum was launched only back in 2019, and it's making a really big difference. We currently have Adrian taking part with members from Trinity and other institutions in Dublin, together with 3 other international academic institutions, developing leaders, student leaders of potential, and encouraging them to engage together in the benefit of collaboration and cohesion. I wanted to finish by saying something about, we talk about journey a lot when we're discussing our faith sector. And I had the privilege and honor of working for the late Lord Jonathan Sacks, who was the former Chief Rabbi of the UK and the Commonwealth. And he said that he wrote this in 2011. I think this perhaps sums up for me very much what I'm trying to do on my journey, and I think what Adrian and all of us are engaged in. He said that when he mentioned that Jeremiah wrote a letter to the Jewish exiles in Babylon, in which he said, "Seek the welfare of the city to which you have gone and pray to God on its behalf, for in its peace and prosperity you will find peace and prosperity." He told them, in effect, the Chief Rabbi wrote, "Maintain your identity while contributing to the common good. Be true to your faith while being a blessing to others, regardless of their faith." That is the challenge today. The good news about religion, Jonathan Sacks wrote, is that it creates communities based on altruism and trust. It teaches people to make sacrifices for the sake of others. It builds social capital. The bad news is that every community divides as it unites, because for every us, there is a them, the people not like us. The best way, Jonathan Sacks wrote, to improve interfaith dialogue and action in multicultural Britain is to create a sense of national identity so strong that brings different ethnic and religious communities together in pursuit of the common good, not just the good for my group, but the good for all of us together. A nation should respect its faiths and faith should respect the nation. That is the only way we will achieve integrated diversity and the dignity of difference, in which we see our differences as contributions that we bring to the common good. That's certainly how I see the role of Dublin City Interfaith Forum and Adrian at its helm. And thank you all very much.
Thank you very much indeed for that powerful contribution and for sharing with us your connection with Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. Thank you. I move then to Ian Stewart from the Edinburgh Interfaith Association, if you're able to address us briefly.
Thank you. It's a great privilege to be with you on this auspicious occasion as we celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Dublin City Interfaith Forum. I was reflecting just the other day that when Dublin Interfaith came into being, it was roughly the same time that I took over the position as the Executive Director of the Edinburgh Interfaith Association, coming from my previous post as the Church of Scotland Interfaith Officer. And that was where Adrian and I met, I believe, for the first time. And in that time, over that 10-year period, I think there's been a real shift from interfaith being seen as an activity with a few people engaged on the fringes to something that's become something increasingly recognised as so central to the vital work and the well-being of our society and very important to our churches and our faith groups, and even more so as our communities and our cities become more diverse. And this was really highlighted during the pandemic, where local authorities and central government came more and more to see faith communities as a vital means of getting vital messages out and support to people. And we've witnessed great examples of faith communities coming together, delivering food supplies to those in the most need, acting as COVID testing centres, vaccination. And through our own interfaith online activities in Edinburgh, we've heard some great stories of faith in action, and we've been able to connect faith groups together, people inspired by their faith to reach out and help others in their communities. And we've been able to create videos to encourage vaccine uptake in the African Caribbean community. And as Leonie has pointed out, these wonderful international connections that we've made with Dublin and through CFCF, we're learning from each other all the time and supporting one another. London had the taxi vaccination wonderful initiative, and we were able to encourage the rolling out of vaccination buses in Glasgow. So there's such a thing that we're learning and social impact that we're bringing. And what these initiatives show is that interfaith organisations such as Dublin have a key role to play in building cohesive and resilient communities who are helping to build more compassionate, caring societies. As I said, we're learning from one another, and we in Edinburgh have gained a great deal from our partnerships with Dublin. We've done many events together now, including one last year where I remember your Hindu monk, Swami Purananda, teaching our Rabbi David Rose a great deal about Hinduism. And we're looking forward to partnering together on future events. Just a few years ago, we celebrated our 30-year anniversary, and I'm looking forward in 10 years' time, hopefully to be with you for your 20-year anniversary in person, hopefully in Dublin. And I do hope that in that time, you will continue to grow from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Again, thank you very much indeed for sharing those perspectives. And the backdrop of the pandemic isn't far away from any of us. And in Dublin, likewise, we found ourselves digging deep in that time, seeking to meet the needs of a wide range of communities. So Ian, thank you for bringing that to the surface. I'm looking then to Glen Cree and its CEO for our next contribution. Niamh.
I don't think, excuse me, I don't think Niamh will be able to join us today. Okay. Maybe we can ask Mustafa to step in and...
Yes. Mustafa, are you willing to speak in on behalf of the Faith Forum for London?
Great. Thank you very much, Archbishop. It's been an honour to be connected with the Dublin City Interfaith Forum over the last 3 years in a very challenging sort of period. both in terms of how we've all had to live very differently, but also in how we've learned, we are as organizations in a very challenging time, as often faith is being marginalized across our different cities. And we need to think about how we can connect faith more to people, but also to institutions around us in our cities. And as Leonie said, in many ways, I got to get to know the Dublin City Interfaith Forum through the city's Faith and Community Forum, which was a great initiative, bringing together different cities across Europe to learn around how we can learn in growing organizations and be more impactful, but also thinking about how we can be sustainable. And it's great to see that you've reached this milestone of being 10 years around. I think it's reached its a very important junction. We share a birthday, Adrian, as it's the 10th year anniversary for the Faith Forum for London, as we've registered as a charity. So we were around before then, but we weren't registered as a charity. We had complicated relationships. Consistently, we were adopted for a while, and as we reached adulthood as an old charity, we registered, and it was so that's an interesting junction that we share that I didn't realize, but it is special, and hopefully for many of our organizations, it's really about how do we maintain the important work that we're doing in this sector. Sustaining our work is really important. We've seen how important the faith sector has been leaned upon across our communities because of the COVID vaccination, when we were promoting social distancing in our communities, and providing leadership for the faith sector to speak to the authorities, to government, around how we impact around measures around when places of worship should be open, how we need to put safeguards in place. It's been a really challenging time. It's been really good to learn from what other cities are doing and understand how we can share, but also looking at the strategic view of how we enhance the relationship of our faith communities who are our members with politicians, decision makers, and others. And finally, I mean, me and Adrian have spoken so much about the important work around improving faith literacy within institutions so that we become more inclusive, and that we make sure we, even in the corporations and the business, how we grow is really important, that we sustain and retain our staff by making them feel more healthy. And there is so much more that the networks that we work with can provide to their communities. I came out of a meeting last week where I was speaking to a number of multi-faith organizations around preparing young people for adulthood, because that's something, that absence and connectivity of being ready for adulthood in our communities is really important. That doesn't impact one community, it prepares many communities. So thank you very much again. I look forward to be working continuously with the Dublin Cities Interfaith Network, and Adrian particularly, but also with the many familiar faces I see here today. And hopefully we can go from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that. And that actually brings our morning to a conclusion. I don't think we're finished, because what's happened to us is that many new avenues and pathways have opened up. I think we have reached a moment of renewal, and those of you who have joined us and sustained your joining for the full hour and a half and have come and have had to go, you've given us a tremendous encouragement in that moment of renewal. And you've given it to us in a very particular way. It has to do with a word that we use all of the time, the word diversity, because you've given us body and strength to the use of that word. You've drawn us back into the last couple of years, and the memory can play tricks on us, because we can say, well, we're moving forward. But we're only moving forward with those with whom we moved in the last couple of years. And thank you very much for that, because part of that renewal, I think, was the discovery afresh of neighborliness. And that has been tremendously important to us. And it not only transcends faith differences, but it actually tunnels down to human likeness. And both of those issues are important for us to remember. Also, we've talked about systems and financing. We've talked about the restructuring of public language, the responsibility that churches and faith communities have in that context, to come to the aid and to hear the concerns of those who exercise government on our behalf, as well as others who feel that we have something to offer. And so the idea of contribution would be the second one that would come to my mind. Networking seems to me to be alive and well, not only within Dublin and Ireland from our panel presentations, but also what we've just heard from across a very wide range of contexts. Some of us have been at this work and doing this for much longer than others. We need your experience, and we hope that perhaps the perspective that we have in our own Dublin context will also be of interest and importance to you. I suppose that's the other thing that the pandemic time has taught those of us who are privileged and fortunate enough to come through it, which is that aspects of networking are now a lot easier than they used to be. Take, for example, the fact that we were able to gather in this way, which would have been inconceivable probably a couple of years back. We wouldn't have got to the point of having this level of engagement and sophistication. So I simply want maybe to take up the last thing that was said, preparing young people for adulthood. That I think is very much where our focus is and will be. Young people have plenty of things on their mind. They also have plenty of commitment to causes that are good and honourable. And I think the interfaith self-understanding within the context of civic life is one of those. So just before we go, I bring us back to the title, Building Bridges, Sharing Common Ground and Promoting Integration. Those of us in Dublin City Interfaith Forum really want to thank everybody who has contributed today, as staff members, as members of our committee, as those who made time carefully to prepare presentations and to offer them to us, and to others who decided that they wanted to spend their morning, last morning of January, with us in this way. So Adrian, my thanks go to you for having this wonderful idea. My thanks go to everybody else, and I think we've just finished on time. So thank you. Goodbye.